Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Chrymes. It is a very exciting day for me as today I'm kicking off the first of my regular series again of my true crime documentarian style videos on Miss Lockhart. This is a case that's very close to my heart because I feel like it's someone whose name is becoming irrelevant in her own story. And I don't like that. Every human being on earth is important, and it's something that we're going to discuss. But one of the reasons that her name is falling to the wayside is due to a case that I did last year, and you guys are going to see and be the judge of if that case really does connect with Miss Lockhart's case. Now, I have two exciting things to tell you all before we get into Miss Lockhart's case. The first is this case will have a new assistant working with me. This new assistant has only been promised a job on this video. My patrons and my channel members already know about my new assistant, so I'm interested to see what the rest of you all are going to think. But I leave my new assistant's job totally in your hands. If you like the new assistant, leave a comment in the comment section below saying to keep them. They may not be in every single video coming up, but it depends on the vibe and the mood. If you say yes, they will definitely be in new videos coming up. If majority of you say no, then this was a one-off. So I am very eager to see what you all will say. But the second thing I want to say is probably the most important thing, which is between my free time of editing all of these true crime videos, I often play a video game that I love very much, and this video game is growing as one of the fastest mobile video games out. Already has 2 million people playing the game, and is made from the makers of Angry Birds. This game is called Small Town Murders. Now you can put your detective skills to the test because Small Town Murders is a free crime mystery puzzle game. Instead of watching me talk about another true crime case, this time you get to be the investigator. With hundreds of levels to choose from and every crime being a puzzle itself. You get to uncover the evidence, solve puzzle games, unlock clues, and narrow down that suspect list. Small Town Murders allows you to investigate crime scenes, solve murder mystery cases, solve matching puzzles to collect clues, and interrogate a cast of quirky characters such as Nora Mysteries and Deputy Shanahan. Those two are actually my favorite. And to top that, there's a promotion going right now where every new user will receive in-game boosters to help them with those extra tricky puzzles. So if you're looking for a new challenge, look no further. Download Small Town Murders from the link in the description below and put those detective skills to the test, as I know my true Chrymes fans can. Small Town Murders is the perfect game to play while traveling home from Christmas, so why not put the whole family to the test and see who can solve the puzzle first. So let's go. Nora needs your help, I need your help, and the killer must be stopped. And that's what we do here on my channel anyway. So make sure you download Small Town Murders from the link in the description. And without further ado, let's begin our video. Addie did have a friend who loved her a lot, and she was heavily involved in this. And some of you are thinking, is John going to talk about Addie's friend? I will be discussing Addie's friend and the other murder case that has some people thinking that it's bigger than Zach having PTSD and something else is going on. I will be talking about that in my next video, continuing from here. JD.
I haven't been summoned in quite some time.
Yeah, well, there's a reason for that.
And what would that reason be this time, Master? Am I researching another murder case?
Because I need you to take me somewhere. Take me to July 1st of 2020.
Oh no, Master. Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
You're not prepared for 2020. I mean, you don't even have a face mask.
And why would I need a mask?
Things are quite different in the year 2020. Are you sure?
Yeah, take me to July of 2020.
Yes, Master. sir, you are in the year 2020, but I must warn you that COVID cases in the recent race relations. Sorry, sir. It's just that why would you want to come back here?
I figured if you can't go back in the past, you can go into the future. So if I can't go back to CrimeCon to get the nostalgia from being there, maybe I can feel it from my 1 year anniversary from being there.
When you were partying with your friends, dancing on stage like a buffoon and shaking your rump?
Well, you don't have to bring that up.
Sorry, master. Were these images of Mardi Gras helping you?
No, I gotta have the feel, JD, and I get the feeling like if I put myself in the location.
Are you thinking about Zach and Adi?
Somewhat.
Particularly what happened to Adi?
I was just thinking about her and thinking about her. I don't know. I don't know, JD.
Are you thinking about your time with Stephanie Harlow?
No,
sir?
I do, but not how you. No, not Stephanie. Not Addie.
Are you thinking about her, master? You are, aren't you? I understand now. Master, would you like to tell the story of what happened to her? I'll give you time to think.
JD, load file, eDrive /John Chrymes /storage /John Chrymes opening.mov.
Yes, master.
When I was 21, I decided just to pick up and move to New Orleans. I'd always loved the city. I was tired of Houston. I'd gone through some bad things anyway, and I moved to New Orleans just kind of on a whim. But when I got there, I found a job and a place to stay pretty easily. I guess that's why they call it the Big Easy. And I was introduced to Zach Bowen about a week later in the beginning of October of 1996. I should say. He was a bartender at Jazz Cafe on Bourbon Street. A friend that I'd made knew him as well and introduced me to him. And when I first saw him, he was just godlike. He was 6'10", that long blonde hair, and very attractive. I remember being embarrassed, and I almost fell over myself to shake his hand. I guess it was obvious that I found him attractive. After walking away, my friend told me that he had a girlfriend at the time. And so I ran into him, I guess, a few weeks later and met his girlfriend, and they were on a double date. And I first saw his girlfriend, who later became his wife, making out with the girl at the bar in front of everybody. I guess, the guys didn't mind, and it made me a little uncomfortable. And I don't know, he was the good looking one in the relationship, I thought. And I didn't really understand what he was, she was older. Of course, I didn't realize he was 18 yet either. He didn't offer that information up too quickly. I found out. But he drank anywhere he wanted to. Everybody knew him. By that point, he was selling, he and his dad were selling weed pretty regularly. After having only been there for 6 months. Everybody knew him. It was, I kept running into him after that, but he was by himself after that. And he started buying me shots and drinks, and I found myself making out with him on my birthday. I turned 22. And about a month after that, I ran into him, and he invited me to come hang out with him and his buddy that he worked with at his buddy's house in Metairie. His girlfriend was hanging out with someone else that night. And I went. So we found ourselves at his friend's house, and we went to the bedroom, and one thing was leading to another. came the time where I thought I should mention something about having a condom, and he didn't have one, I didn't have one, and so I decided not to go through with it.
Wow.
And thank God. It wasn't an easy thing to do, but New Orleans was kind of a scary place in a way because you never know what, and everybody was so loose there that it just didn't seem like a good idea.
How would I describe Terry Speaks? I would say that if you go back to the beginning, Terry Speaks is a man that suffered from a difficult upbringing of the effects of being abandoned by your parents, particularly his father, and his mother leaving him with his grandmother. Although it turned out later in life, his mother was found to have some mental disabilities, to say the least. But again, the effects that you suffer from being abandoned and growing up by a single parent grandmother, in particular in a small area of Surrey County, North Carolina.
They counted and found that there are over 7 million grandparents raising grandchildren in their home. They kept counting and found 2.7 million grandparents are the only adults. They are the full-time parent. They kept counting and found 1.7 million grandmothers parenting alone. Single parenting is hard, and even harder as a grandparent. Just to make things harder, they discovered 580,000 of these homes had an average income below the poverty level. They survive on under $33,000 per year. Why are so many of you raising your grandchildren? Most of the time, it's because of your adult children. Instead of happily ever after, they've experienced job loss, divorce, death, drug or alcohol abuse, mental disorders, or antisocial behavior that's landed them in jail. Your grandchild's been through a lot too. A lot of stress, fear, confusion, anxiety, maybe even abuse and trauma. You stepped in because your grandkids weren't safe. You wanted to keep them out of foster care, and there weren't many other options.
JD pause.
Sir, did you not like the research I did on single grandparents raising their grandchildren?
Your analytical data is excellent, JD. There's no problem. I just wanted to pause and look at the cartoon drawing.
Was my drawing not okay?
The drawing's fine as well. It's just, I don't know, JD. I used to be this kid, You put somebody around their grandparents and you stick this kid in a tiny county called Surrey County in North Carolina. I mean, these people think that their town is literally the Mayberry town on the Andy Griffith Show.
I cannot seem to locate it.
None of those towns really exist.
Well, there are small towns all across the country.
I'm not talking about the size, though. I'm more thinking about the idealism, where everything's going to be fine. This guy didn't grow up to be little Opie who was raised, by Andy Griffith, single father. This child is going to grow up to be a murderer, or we wouldn't be talking about him on this channel. And so you go back to the beginnings and you can kind of understand where this stuff coming from. That's just why I asked you to pause it. But let's get on with the video.
Yes, we do. Today, we've got grandparents that should be enjoying their lives, but instead, they are taking care of their kids. Now, one of the questions that came to mind or popped up was the fact that what do you do when your kids drop their kids off on your doorstep and they keep getting up? They say they're going to come back for the kids, but they don't come back for the kids. Now, more than likely, in this case, personally, I think they're abandoning the kids. But what I can speak for this one. What bothers me is that you have a lot of a lot of grandparents today that's raising grandkids, y'all, and shouldn't be raising grandkids. Don't know what happened. I'm sure maybe for whatever reason, maybe the kids got strung out on drugs or something, or maybe just made some bad choices in life. It happens. But I think that's very selfish when children come home and bring their children so that their parents can take care of their children, which is not their parents or the grandparents' responsibility. It's that daughter or that son's responsibility to take care of their kids.
You know, there's one thing to read about something and there's something else to live through it. So I'll let you guys know of something you may not even think about when you live with a grandparent or a great aunt like I did for a majority of my upbringing. Um, I'll give you an example, small one. You are a little boy and you're growing up around a bunch of other little boys and you're playing outside and they do what typical little boys do. They start to pick on your parents or say, your mom is ugly this, your mom is ugly that. Just the little stuff little bad boys do when there's no one around. When you don't have a mother or don't have a father or you're being raised by someone else or a grandmother, even if one of those children like you, so they are sympathetic to understanding that you are being raised by your grandmother. When they say a joke like that to you, it's going to hurt and remind you of the abandonment that you suffer from and the longing for wanting to know something about your parent. That's even if the kid is sympathetic and just trying to include you in the jokes but being nice. But at the same time, when the other kids are particularly being mean or evil and don't like you, so they know that what they're saying is going to sting and hurt you, the pain is times 10. So what you have on both sides, you have bad to worse. You don't have good to bad. It's just bad to worse. And it's a constant reminder and this constant longing, especially of a mother. Now, you take this little child going through something, just as the one example that I've given you, and you move to this child becoming a teenager with hormones, and this child begins to date. Also, this child, because there's no grandfather, they're still going through the single parent thing, but just with a grandmother. They have to have multiple jobs to help bring in income. So you don't have your mother, you don't have your father, and now you are being driven away from a childhood as you have adult responsibilities. So when you finally meet someone, everything is going to be magnified. The longing you have had for a woman figure is going to go into your relationships. And you may love or feel that you love someone strongly more than you really do. So your first love is probably someone you're going to seriously date for a long time or even marry. Look, I'm going to be honest. There are a lot of similarities between the first story I covered in New Orleans with Mr. Zachary Bowen to the second story I'm covering right now in New Orleans with Mr. Terry Speaks. Now, I know you're saying we're in North Carolina. Trust me, we'll make our way to New Orleans. Both of these men felt inadequate. Different reasons, I admit. Nonetheless, they felt inadequate. Zachary Bowen felt he could never live up to the reputation of his older brother and always felt like he can't get it right and he's always doing wrong, ready to apologize at any moment's notice. Mr. Terry Speaks feels he was abandoned by both parents, forcing him to live with his grandmother. Really, really major abandonment issues. Because of this, both men wanted to overcompensate, and they wanted to do it by becoming extremely popular in high school, being that it guy. Terry Speaks did exceed at places that Zach Bowen didn't. Zach Bowen failed to be homecoming king, but Terry Speaks, with his high school sweetheart, made prom king and queen. Super popular, beautiful people that everybody liked. Both of these men wanted to create their own family in some form of control where they can feel better about themselves taking care of their families. Terry Speaks beat Zach Bowen to the punch again. He was able to marry his childhood sweetheart, as they had 2 children, and both men ran off to the military. Zach to the Army, Mr. Terry Speaks to the Marines. And separation from the military is the first thing to cause negativity in their plans to be the father and the husband.
Master, I feel it's my obligation to let you know that Mr. Terry Speaks...
If you would just allow me to do this portion, that would be great.
But Master, my research...
I've done my own research, thank you. But I will call upon you if I need you.
Master, there's something you don't know about Mr. Speaks.
JD off. Apologize about that. As he was pushed away from being overseas, his first wife, who although come from the same area, comes from money. A family that can back her, which is the opposite of what Terry Speaks had. He had no money, he had no one. So he knew that if things didn't go right with his marriage, he was going to be in real trouble. That's exactly what happened. The separation caused the fighting, and the fighting caused his wife to want to divorce him, taking the children away, never to see them again. I can imagine the feeling that Terry Speaks must have felt. Here it is again. The people that are supposed to be close to you in life are abandoning you and leaving you. And you don't know what you did wrong.
Terry knows exactly what he did wrong, sir.
I'm trying really, really hard not to shut off your programming. I am trying. Could you please not interrupt me? But to see that this time it's not your mom. It's not your father. It's now your wife and children. Can cause you to go into a depression. And like all men, we turn to alcohol. We turn to drinking. But Terry was saved. Terry was saved. Shortly after the messy divorce, he was able to meet Cindy Shaw. Cindy Shaw fell in love with her. And now he gets a second chance to recreate a life together. They run off. They have another child. And he's in the driver's seat again. No longer in the military, though. Mr. Cruz has to find a way to make a living. And he does. But this new job does what the first job did. Pushes him away from his family. As now he has to leave the state to go work at different places. Driving him all the way to New York. Now imagine, if you were married and you had the life that you wanted to have after a major abandonment, and moving away caused dysfunction, and now you're working and you have to move away again, and now the second marriage is not working out. I would assume this time Terry may have had something to do with it, because the fear causes you to be on edge. And this fear may have caused him to start arguments that he wouldn't have if he wasn't under this stress. If you can't fix a problem, there's no reason to go through the same thing all over again. There's no reason to rush into a third relationship. For what? For you to move away? For the same thing to happen? This time, Terry's thinking, let's go full deep into my depression. I'm going to be a loner. I'm going to travel around the country. I can't see my children. I have 2 wives that are keeping me away. I have nothing. I'm going to try several suicide attempts. anything to get my pain away from what I'm going through. He bounced from state to state trying to find a way, just like Mr. Zachary Bowen. Just like Mr. Zachary Bowen, going around the country, they both land in New Orleans. Margaret Sanchez, where do we begin? Well, we can't begin here, but we'll get back to here. Yeah, I'm sure everybody is ready for me to talk about this part, but not yet. Okay, that's closer, but right there. Right there is the sweet spot. The rebellious teenager that comes home and wants nothing else in life but to torment their parent. In Margaret's situation, her mother who loves her very much, who she will come home to argue with every single day, and the typical rebellious stage. Now, allow me to rant, that is, if you don't mind. I find it interesting in human beings that at the same time we want to be so different from everyone else on planet Earth, we want to be the same and relatable to everyone else on planet Earth. And this conflict is never more present than the mind of a rebellious teenager, for we want to be the mysterious person that no one can ever figure out. We are just too smart. We are in situations no one out of the 7 billion people on the planet right now has ever been in. Never in previous decades. Never in the 2000s. Never in the 90s, the 70s, 60s. Never in the history of mankind. Only you and this one person. No one can feel how you feel. We all believe this. Some kind of a faint form of narcissism, but at the same time, we want to log onto our social media and post the meme, say the joke that would make every single person laugh. We want to fall in love. We want to tell stories that people can relate to because we're social animals. We want to be different, but we want to be the same. This is what you find in the rebellious teenager. And the conflict is this. When you are a parent and your child is acting rebellious in their teenager, I'm better than everyone stage, or I'm angry at the world stage, the most scariest thing is that you fear you are looking in the mirror. Your teenage child does not understand. You're trembling right now because, oh my God, this is exactly how I acted towards my mother. So by this same theory, my little baby, who is so moody and doesn't understand she is not different, that every teenager feel this way and react this same way at some point in their life, she is going to be my age. And when she's my age, she could have a child too. But how do I stop it? How do we stop the same thing from happening over and over again? And it only happens over and over again because we are so relatable and so much alike. But we just can't get it inside of the mind of that teenager we love so much, that's standing in front of us thinking the world is coming to an end. The problem with that, it isn't guaranteed that this teenager will grow up, have a great life, and have another child and be in the same predicament. Best case scenario, they keep good grades while they're rebelling. The reason I say this is because a lot of times, really early on in your early 20s, a teenager will begin to realize the mistakes that they made, how horrible they treated their parent, and in this guilt, this maturity that's developing in this young woman or young man, nothing permanently changed their life. They didn't get arrested. They have good grades. So they mentally grow and they become the person that you think. There are other options, though. This rebellious stage, this thinking that I know every single thing, this running away from home, this causing them to meet other kids that are doing the same thing, all thinking they are leaders, with no one to follow because they are none the wiser. They go off and they do break the law. They do make bad grades. They do make decisions that will permanently change their lives. And in the worst case scenario, they either become victims or they become monsters themselves. Funny because I was just talking about how we all want to be different, but at the same time, we are all the same. And all across the United States, wherever there are tiny little cities surrounding a really big city, you're going to grow up and you're going to go there and you're going to hang out, but you want to live there. Take a tiny town like Redding, California. People there may want to move to Sacramento. Or you take small cities like where I'm from in Georgia, Macon, Georgia, Griffin, Georgia. We all want to go to the ATL and live in Atlanta. So if you grew up around small towns in Louisiana, such as Margaret Sanchez, after all of her horrific fights with her mother, never listening to her, going off on her wild, passionate, rebellious ways, she packed up her talents and, of course, she went to the Big Easy, New Orleans, Louisiana. I would say that this would be the perfect place for someone like Margaret Sanchez. I mean, she's wildly creative, wants to be different, wants total control, but wants to stand out at the same time without making the right decisions she should have in life growing up. So when she moves there, she finds people of like mind. If you look at the makeup of what makes someone like Margaret Sanchez, and then you go back to my Zach and Addie video and you look at Addie living there in the French quarters where they all were driven to, this is quite the cast of characters as Margaret Sanchez was best friends with Addie Hall. The Addie Hall that Zach Bowen dismembered and chopped their head and limbs off and put it on a pot in a stove. They were all into weird things. Margaret Sanchez was heavily into black magic. It struck her curiosity, and it seems like something that would. Not only that, but she wanted to stand out in a place where everyone is different. You got a lot of tourists that comes into New Orleans for Mardi Gras or just to hang out in the French Quarters around the abundance of bars and little strip clubs, such as she worked outside of. So to stand out, she became a fire twirler. These are actual photos of Margaret Sanchez being a fire twirler. Now, I love stories about star-crossed lovers. And one of the things I love the stories about star-crossed lovers is often when you get these stories, you don't see people together. The reason you call them star-crossed is because you look at what got them there. I know that Romeo was going through a breakup with a woman called Rosaline. I know that Romeo was all heartbroken. I know that Romeo had friends that tried to cheer him up as he was going through the typical teenage, quote unquote, depression of losing your first love. A lot of people forget about that portion. They think Juliet was his first love. It comes on with him having his heart broken. As Romeo's journey, all the way that led him there, everything in his life happened for the purpose of his friends wanting to cheer him up to take him to this costume party. And that's his journey. And then we know that Juliet is a girl who's going through a lot of stuff that people in the Middle East are going through right now in countries such as Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, which is arranged marriages. She's depressed. She wants her freedom. She wants to be able to fall in love and choose who she wants to. And as we sit and you watch Juliet, you put yourself in her shoes and you forget about Romeo. And you watch Romeo, you forget about Juliet. You're engulfed into that one person. So when they meet, you know both of them. The rebellious acts of a typical teenage girl led her to want to go meet different people and make her own rules. A born leader that no one's going to tell her what to do led her to New Orleans. And at the same time, a depressed man who was neglected left and dropped off at his grandmother's house by his father, never got to know his mother. He's there because he tried to do everything the traditional way and it didn't work out. 2 failed marriages, children he will never see from vindictive women. So he comes there, and here are the star-crossed lovers together. And one night, as she's twirling her fire outside of a club, Margaret Sanchez sees Terry Speaks. What do you think happens to a man that tried what he feels to be 2 traditional marriages, and he sees a young, beautiful woman twirling fire in a city he can hide in, and no one really cares or knows who he is, after coming on a long trail of depression? He's going to think the world of this woman. Best thing since sliced bread. That's exactly what he thought of Margaret Sanchez. When you talk about star-crossed lovers, yuck. These 2 met outside of a club. They went to a party afterwards where Margaret Sanchez walked directly to Terry Speaks, took his arm, and they went into a room and immediately had sex. I find it very telling that Margaret made the move on Terry. The Margaret that's rebellious, that no one's going to tell her what to do, that's in control. The Terry that's longing for a woman, the Terry that's longing to be wanted, has a beautiful woman of all these hundreds of guys trailing down the street on Bourbon Street, as it always is in the French Quarters. This woman that sticks out wants me. This woman is not the traditional woman I'm used to having. He must have been on cloud 9. But with Margaret making the first move on Terry, and Margaret being into black magic, and Margaret being 6 years away from her best friend dying in a very horrific way, well, we got a bit of foreshadowing, guys. I do, however, have a spoiler. I want you guys to know that Margaret Sanchez met Terry Speaks in the year of 2012. We don't know which month, but we know they met in 2012. And here's your spoiler. Jaren Lockhart is going to lose her life on June 6th of 2012. It really doesn't matter when Margaret Sanchez met Terry Speaks. At maximum, from the moment she saw Terry Speaks while she was twirling her fire outside of this bar, Jaren Lockhart had at max 6 months to live upon these 2 people meeting. And that's what we'll get into in the next video. Couple questions I would love for you guys to answer in the comment section on part 1 of Zach and Addie 2, Miss Jaren Lockhart's video. One question is, do you guys think I was rude to my new assistant, JD? Do you think I should have let JD spoke? I mean, you watched my videos before in the past. When I'm talking, I'm in my zone. I don't like to be interrupted. But hey, something tells me you guys will want to stick around to watch part 2 come out next week, because I don't know, a birdie told me that I should have let JD speak because I may have got some facts wrong about this. I don't know. We'll find out next week. But leave your comment in the comment section and let me know what you think. Also, too, on a more serious note, like this notion of star-crossed lovers, this notion of love, and do you think that, as far as you see now from what you have learned from Terry Speaks and you learned of Margaret Sanchez, Do you think that they really love each other to run off and get married so quickly? I mean, I couldn't find the specific exact date that they met each other. But again, as I just stated, Jaren Lockhart is going to lose her life on June the 6th. So at maximum, very maximum, you have is if this happened in January, so you have 6 months. But for all we know, this could be a couple months or 2 months. So how do you feel about that? Do you think that these guys really love each other? You think that they're looking for something to fulfill in themselves from each other? Let me know. And you are not going to want to miss the conclusion of this video next week. Before we go, I do want to give one more shout out to the sponsor of this video, Small Town Murders. Guys, it's no joke. I love the game. I play it actually all the time because it's mixing puzzles and getting you thinking. Also with true crime. And you just don't find a combination like that nowadays. So please support the channel. Please click on the link in the description on that very link and download this video game to your phone. It's free. It helps the channel out. You know how YouTube is with the algorithm. So if you guys want to support John Chrymes, make sure that you download this free game from the link directly in this description. And that would mean so much to me. Without further ado, guys, I will see you all next week. And you know how we end it. Don't kill, make a sandwich. Talk to you guys next time.